50th anniversary of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. We're going to start off with some introductions, starting down here.
Hi. My name's Matt. I have been known to draw lizards, and that's it. I work on the Godzilla comics mostly. I've also worked on I've also worked on the Gamma Blu-ray set for video and a couple other things that you guys probably are familiar with. And I'm down in the basement this year, so be sure to stop by and say hi.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is DiManna. Amongst other things, I am the creator and author of the Godzilla novelization project, which is an ongoing. Oh, thank you. You guys, I love you all. Thank you. It makes my day. Which, for anybody who doesn't know, is an ongoing independent project on my part to novelize all the Godzilla films for free online. I'm also a academic writer on Godzilla and monster movies, and a professional writer by day and Godzilla writer by night, basically. And actually, before we get started, I did want to. I brought a friend.
Oh.
Might be able to help us out here. We need props. I thought we needed some props, so I brought a prop.
Did anybody check, is there a red moon or a red sun today?
Any suspiciously dark-colored clouds? Any people who, I'm just going to say it. Any gorillas around here? Any gorillas? Okay, we got a gorilla. Okay, you know what to do. Call it a bull. Your turn, sir.
So my name is Elijah Thomas. I'm the host of the podcast Kaiju Conversation. I'm also a contributor to Kaiju United. And among other things, I did the audio commentary for Yuzo, the biggest battle in Tokyo. And I work with SRS on their Blu-ray releases. I work on Liverleaf and the upcoming War of the Ninja Monsters, Jiron vs. Gora. So we'll go ahead and get things started here. With everybody here, we're going to start off with the history for us on how we got introduced to this film, kind of celebrating, this momentous film for many reasons, and I'm sure we'll talk about those as we continue on. So we'll start down here, and then we'll go to Matt, and then we'll end on me. So Danny?
What? I'm kidding. So Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. This was a relatively early one that I saw in my own personal history, finding these movies and falling in love with them. This is one that I saw on TV first when I was, 7, 8, 9, maybe. The Sci-Fi Channel used to play Showa-era packaged films, right? And they had the trailers are ingrained in my head, a Labor Day Godzilla marathon in 25 years ago or something ridiculous. And they had all the 70s films playing. And I, having a lovely mother who very much supported my love of this stuff, popped in a VHS tape and recorded the whole thing, all 6-7 hours of it. And I got Hedorah, which was the international dub, but it was airing as Smog Monster. They were calling it Smog Monster. And Megalon and Gigan, and at the very end of the tape, Mechagodzilla, all in one big tape. And so I ended up seeing Hedorah and Gigan and Megalon a lot more, because you gotta fast forward 6 hours to get to Cosmic Monster, and they did call it Cosmic Monster. But whenever I got to the end of that tape, that was you're 9 years old, you have nothing better to do. You pop that tape in and you have a whole Godzilla marathon without ever having to get up, except to push the fast forward button. And it was a movie I watched, plenty of times as a kid, and then it kind of became kind of muddy in my head after a while. It was one I hadn't seen, I lost the tape. Finally got the DVD when it came out, the Sony DVD, and I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of one of the best things ever, isn't it? This is amazing. And it's just kind of followed with me since, and who doesn't love Mechagodzilla? Who doesn't love Mechagodzilla? But yeah, that's my story.
Okay. So, it's funny, I think that we probably saw the exact same Sci-Fi Channel marathon, and I think that was how I begged my parents to get us the Sci-Fi Channel.
Really?
Yeah, because it was Smog Monster and Destroy All Monsters at some point. I don't think it was in that particular block, but it was I'd never seen this. So that's not how I first saw Mechagodzilla. I'm just going to ape your story. I did a thing with saying it anyway. For me, I saw a VHS tape of Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster. It was like HEB. Anybody from Texas? Okay, fewer than I expected, but always fun. So HEB is our grocery chain, and they have everything, and including apparently Godzilla movies back in the day. They had copies of Godzilla versus the Bionic Monster. And I remember what struck me about it was that it was part of, like, I think the Good Times home video releases. So they had these garish comic booky covers where it was a Heisei, green Heisei Godzilla shooting red fire at this, I'm going to say, approximation of Mechagodzilla.
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
Nobody had any like copies of Famous Monsters of Filmland to reference clearly. So, but it was fun though, you know, and I remember very clearly Mechagodzilla's head was popping off slightly, like Godzilla's fire was like going into his neck.
Yeah.
Busting it from the inside. It was really
bizarre
and cool though. And I just remember being like, oh man, this is gonna be a treat. And that was one of the triumvirate that I had for a long time was Sea Monster, Cosmic Monster, King Kong versus Godzilla. Like those are the three that I watched over and over and over. And yeah, Mechagodzilla was the one that I was like, it had, I think for me, like the biggest like fist pumping ending, you know, where it's like, well, this is the one I want to watch if I want to really be in Godzilla's corner. Like, I'm always in Godzilla's corner, but this is the one where it's like unambiguously, like he's here to save the day. And yeah, that's my earliest memory of it. Love it.
So mine's VHS too, but it's kind of weird. The film kind of like
Go ahead.
His autobiography.
the film just kind of, if anybody's seen The Ring, you know how like the VHS shows up?
Yeah.
That just kind of happened.
Still alive?
Did you find a piece of metal? And so as I was watching my earliest Godzilla movies, suddenly just on my shelf was like this unlabeled VHS tape. And on it was Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster. I don't know how it got there, I don't know why it was there, but it was there. And I remember watching it and falling in love with it. This was after I'd seen Terror, of course, but it just kind of has always just been there, ominously.
It's interesting you saw Terror before you saw Cosmic Monster, yeah. Because like, I remember for a while, Terror and Mechagodzilla was kind of lost. Like, it was really hard to find until classic media started pumping them out.
Yeah. So I'm stunned. So, did you have any hesitation putting a blank tape into your machine, not knowing what you were going to see? Like, did you fear that you'd be cursed in some way?
You know, I used to not be afraid. But as time goes on, you know, you learn things, you see things, you realize it could be a bad thing.
It could be bad. Like, you don't want to do that.
Well, I think after the early 2000s, that's when everyone, for some reason, collectively decided, I don't know, something must have entered the zeitgeist and been like, I think we'll leave that tape alone.
We're not going to. We'll probably bury that one in the backyard just to be safe. Put a fairy ring around it or something. Bless it with sage.
So with that, I guess we can talk about some of our highlights of the film, some of the celebratory things. You know, we've got a nice representative of one of the props. So,
So fun.
speaking of fun, Matt, do you have any fun moments in the film?
Just like stuff that jumps to mind? I mean, like I grew up with that. I guess it must have been the international dub. And, you know, so much of my memories of Godzilla movies growing up, because when I only had access to the dubs, that was, and I'm just thinking about how many times I just had no idea what they were saying because the audio was so bad. The audio track was so, like, for the longest time I thought, this is not Mechagodzilla, but I have to tell the story. Pardon me. I thought Gigan's name was Saizion, which is actually a dope name.
It's pretty good.
But it comes from the fact that the audio recording for Godzilla vs. Megalon is so bad in that dub, and and the character is asking whose side's he on when Gigan shows up. Whose side's he on? The monster wolf! It's so blown out. But he sounded like he was drunk there. I don't know what that first voice was. But guys, coming here. I called him. He's gonna help Echo because they're friends.
Listen, I know a cockroach. And I called my friend the cockroach. He's gonna send his buddy. And he's gonna beat your mom.
That guy over there. He's a robot. He looks like a
He's a robot.
We have to stop this or
This is gonna welcome to the rest of the
So
panel.
Mechagodzilla. So many, but so many of those lines are burned into my mind, like Anguirus shouldn't fight his friend Godzilla. And I'm like, what's an Anguirus?
What are you talking about?
I didn't know who Anguirus was at the time. And I was like, this is a spiky boy. Oh, no. He had a bad time.
He really did.
Yeah. So, those are some of my favorite. It's just like, but again, at the time, it didn't occur to me that they were dubbed. This is just what they sounded like. And it's just because you're a little kid and you're not thinking about things. So, like, I'm just rolling with the punches here. Was it Terror? Which movie has Ichinose? Is he in both?
That's Terror.
That's Terror. I just remembered it really sounded like they were saying Itchy Nosy. And that's a Hong Kong dub team for you, like everybody's got a slight accent they're violently trying to suppress.
Yes. We're not British, I swear.
Yeah. So anyway, those are some of mine.
It's funny you bring up Anguirus because that unmarked VHS tape.
Okay. I have nightmares about that.
Cut the opening. So when eventually I finally watched the film on DVD, where there was a whole opening with Anguirus there, establishing it. Like I didn't even know that existed. So I thought he just kind of showed up out of the ground and just.
This guy just shows up. He's just here now.
And they almost died and just left. I just thought that's how the movie was.
I mean, it's like I said, I knew just enough to he's his Godzilla's friend? What
This is a sequel to something, isn't it? Wait a minute.
Yeah. No, I know that intro you're talking about. I didn't see that until I got the DVD either. So
I have very vague memories of that opening, but it was definitely on the version I taped. Because I remember the English title, because the Japanese title does the same thing, but in the American version, it's Godzilla's name flashing toward the screen over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. Really awesome.
It's really awesome.
I think I had the one that was the freeze frame.
Yes.
And it says Godzilla versus the cosmic monster, and it's like. It's like
You're hyped up.
way they could have done it, but the flashing title card, that's really fun.
Oh, that's good. And the movie doesn't really stop after that either. It just gets more hype as it goes. Oh, man.
Is there any other moments that you
Goodness. I mean, this movie is just so full of moments that live in my brain and will, God willing, never leave me. A lot of them actually, echoing Matt, they do come from the dub, just lines of on a night like this, you should talk about love. It's so good. And Nanbara as a character is just great. And he's great in no matter what version you watch. He's just cool.
We never establish who he is until the end of the movie.
Yeah, he just shows
this
up.
guy.
He's this guy. You don't know if he's a good guy. You don't know.
He shot that guy. He didn't know he was a monkey. He just shot him. As far as he knows, who's this murderer in Aviators? Also, he's a government agent. That makes it okay.
Okay.
He's not going to do anything bad.
No, he's fine. He gets carte blanche for that. He can go kill space babes as much as he wants. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. It's lines of dialogue. It's just little moments. It's the Mechagodzilla, opening night on Vegas reveal that zooms in as it goes up to his face, and the music. The music.
We should talk about the music.
We should talk about the music. We're never going to talk about the music. One of my favorite bits, and this is again purely locked into the tape I had as a child, and I'm going to be curious if anybody else can echo this that may have seen it on TV. Toward the end of the film, after the characters escape the base and the car blows up and the bad guys think they're dead, Nanbara says, "I'm going to go back inside to take care of those," and it didn't say the word. The audio cut out because they didn't. I'm going to go inside and take care of those. Silence. And then years later, I finally watched the dubbed version again on DVD, and I was like, does he say what I think he said? Yes, he did. He called them a naughty word. But yeah, just the fact that they censored it for TV. The cut of Gigan I did the same thing with Gengo where he says, "You're a hard." What? What did he say? I don't. Then I found out later. But yeah, just weird edits. I still remember to this day, even though I've seen I have the Japanese version, clearly I've seen that 1,000 times. I remember where all the commercial breaks were,
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it.
Big part growing up in the VHS era is like, this is the day when grandma was paying attention and it was fast forwarding through the commercials. Or, my dad was recording this one. He's like, it's fine. Or, everybody knows exactly what the commercial did, right?
Yes. Like my brain almost expects the scene to fade to black very fast, and then some kind of 2000, 2001 era, sci-fi era channel marathon kind of, you're listening to the all-day Labor Day soap opera. That's stuck in my brain. It will never leave my brain. It's so silly, but it's great. So, film specific, there are 1,000 things I could mention, but a lot of the most treasured things to me are just landlocked into the very, very specific way I saw it, and I treasure those memories. I do.
You brought up towards the end there when they're destroying the base and whatnot, and trying to destroy the control system for Mechagodzilla. I remember in the dub, if I remember correctly, they say that her father died.
It is implied.
Father has achieved a victory.
Father has achieved a victory.
Yeah.
But it's stupid because you do see them run out in the dub too. They didn't cut that out. That's one weird thing about this film is the English version didn't eliminate all the violence. The Gigan, the Cinema Shares version of Gigan, cut out on Godzilla on Monster Island, cut out a lot of the gore, the bloody moments when Godzilla and Aguirre are just spewing red tempera paint all over the camera. That stuff was cut out. I didn't see that till the DVD came out. And then Megalon has quite a few things that were removed, including Rokuro being kidnapped, and the bad guy gets the rock that lands on him. There's some violent moments. But Cinema Shares didn't do that for what was originally to be released as Godzilla versus the Bionic monster.
Right.
Clearly, it did not hit theaters with that title because Universal said, actually, the amazing, we've got the Bionic Woman and the $6 Million Man, and they didn't. They threatened a lawsuit, and they said, you got to change the title. So if you've ever seen it, very early promo art in that beautiful Basil Gogos painting that was done for the poster, it was a cover of Famous Monsters of Filmland in the 70s. It says Godzilla versus the Bionic Monster. And they changed it to Cosmic Monster, so they didn't get sued. Yeah.
Now, did anybody else, so there's a movie called The Cosmic Monster.
Yes, there is.
Did anybody else, when they found out that was a movie, think it was connected to Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster?
I am struggling to remember the Cosmic Monster as a film, but I did think last night that Q the Winged Serpent was on, but it actually was just the Serpent Q, the Serpent Queen, and it's like a BBC show or something.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, that's unrelated. I just want to talk about Q the Winged Serpent, but that's okay. Put that aside.
So when it has an anniversary, we'll have to talk about Q, because Q's awesome.
But what is the Cosmic Monster about?
You go for it. I'm struggling to remember this too.
If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've seen this. I want to say it's insects get irradiated by space radiation, and they go big.
Okay, that sounds about right.
And then they terrorize this small town in the middle of nowhere. And
You're describing about 14 different 50s movies.
Not really boiling this down, are we?
Monsters. Okay. Well, I've heard of it and I've seen posters, but I've never seen that one. Add it to the list. Yes, add it to the list.
But I think we should talk about the music.
We
was by Marusu Sato, who had done music.
We got it.
And what's different is a lot of Sato's scores kind of remind, at least for me, they remind me of his Kurosawa films. They're a little less bombastic, a little more calmer in tone, whereas in this one,
he's just going for it. I mean, just like that theme when as soon as Mechagodzilla was revealed.
You'll love it.
It's so good, and it's just something I can just listen to.
That's the one? That's the best one?
It's
That's pretty
definitely
good.
like the hypest.
It really is.
Because
It's beautiful. It's swing music. It's great.
yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
like the swing jazz era, kind of James Bondy, but a subtle and just like, you know, and Sato, I actually really have a soft spot for a lot of his scores. Because I think he also did Son of Godzilla.
Yes.
And Sea Monster. He was definitely the other guy at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the soundtrack now.
Yeah, it will be stuck in everybody's head for the rest of the
Yeah.
weekend, which is a good thing.
Did the Godzilla thing appear at all?
No, there's a slight kind of almost approximation of it, where when Mechagodzilla, the fake Godzilla, shows up, which was kind of intentional because the fake Godzilla thing was kind of an attempt on the filmmaker's part to give Godzilla, not really, but Godzilla, a destructive moment that harkened back to 20 years earlier. This was the 20th anniversary film, and it wasn't marketed as such. It wasn't marketed as Godzilla's 20th anniversary film. It's 14 movies in 20 years. That's crazy. But yeah, that dun, bum, 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 that bit. It's the one note is right, and then it deviates a little bit. It kind of gives you this uncanny feeling that you're looking at Godzilla, and then it goes in a different direction. It's almost like the music is subtly hinting it's not him. It's interesting, but other than that, no feedback, no work.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I love Sato myself. And Fukuda, they worked a lot together on, especially the Godzilla films. And at one point, they were the B team. They weren't even Toho's A team, specifically in the 60s.
Right.
Like Whirling Gargantuous was the A film, Ebra was the B film. And this is kind of the amalgamation of all their work together in one kind of final product.
Yeah, it is really kind of a little victory lap for them specifically, because then, for Terror, they just brought in Honda and Kube, but yeah, that's a good point. I guess I hadn't thought of that, because I don't think either of them ever came back.
No.
And it is interesting because Fukuda, I know he kind of looked back on the Godzilla's franchise for a while with a little bit of regret, like just feeling, I just did these movies because they asked me to. And it wasn't until like years later when I think he had told a story about how he was on a plane, and some guy's kid next to him, this American dad and his son, they were talking to him, and his son was like a big Godzilla fan. He busted out a bunch of Godzilla trading cards and stuff, and he was like, oh, I guess people do like these movies. And it's like, yeah, bro. But
You think?
yeah, but yeah, I think it would have been really interesting to have seen Sato do more, because I'm trying to think of all the movies he scored.
He did Raids Again.
He did Raids Again?
He did Raids Again, that far back.
Yeah.
Not for Fukuda-san, he did that for Moriyoshi Oda.
Right.
And then he came back when Fukuda came on board, and he did Sea Monster, he did Son of Godzilla, and then they brought him back again later on for Mechagodzilla, because the 70s, the 70s was weird because they did
The 70s goes. The 70s tokusatsu scene was weird.
I know, I'm blowing everybody's minds here with this new information. But yeah, it was fascinating because the 70s was a weird, it's so scatterbrained because some of the films were an attempt to go in completely different directions, and some of them were like, well, let's go do the 60s thing again because that worked really, really well. Gigan did that. But there's very little original music for Gigan. They used Ifukube cues. They did it with Terror Mechagodzilla, and they went the full 9 yards and brought Ifukube and Honda back. And when they were developing this one, the first Mechagodzilla, at that point, the writer, Shinichi Sekizawa, was basically tapped out for ideas. He'd written the majority of the Godzilla films up to that point, and he said they were running out of ideas back in the late 60s. And by the time you get to the 70s, it's like, dude, I'm tapped out. Like, there are no other ideas. What have we not done? Robot Godzilla. That's because that was a thing.
It is funny to consider that, like, for a while there, it doesn't seem to be quite the case anymore, but for a while there, it felt like once you got to Mechagodzilla, that was kind of your crest. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, okay, here we go. Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. And, not necessarily because it was bad, it was just that once you get to Robot Godzilla, you're like, okay, now we have to explain who Mechagodzilla is, and because you're getting to be into hat-on-hat territory. But I also find it interesting, I'm sorry, I'm pulling
Go for it, go for it.
back here. I do find it interesting conceptually. The idea of a Mechagodzilla is getting gradually harder to justify in story because aliens came to Earth. You could rationalize that they were like, okay, we saw the most powerful creature on Earth. We'll make our own version of that and kill that. And it's like, okay, I can wrap my head around that. And then, but once I honestly have never really been all that jazzed about human organizations, specifically like the government or the G-Force, whoever, making Mechagodzilla, because it's like, here's this thing that's so destructive and has traumatized so many people on this planet in our collective culture. Let's make a robot version of that and put a bunch of guns on it. And it's like, there is a stretch there. And like, if you sit there and you have to perfectly justify everything in the movie, you won't have a movie. Like, I actually kind of like the new version from Godzilla versus Kong conceptually, because of course Elon Musk would make a Mechagodzilla.
He hasn't yet? Wait a minute, what?
I mean,
it's probably happening right now.
I live a few miles, like 10 miles from that giant factory.
You know first.
There's definitely big enough to put a Mechagodzilla in. I don't know what else they're doing in that thing. They had to throw out all those crappy trucks, so...
they're melting them down to make giant robots.
Oh my god, I have to do that now.
That's a
Mechagodzilla that looks like a giant Cybertruck.
You heard it here first,
Oh
folks.
my god.
Tesla's Mechagodzilla.
Oh, God, I should have brought this. Maybe I'll finish it by the end of the weekend if I'm not just drowning in emissions. Anyway, I stole that for a while.
No, that was beautiful. That was worth it. Tesla presents the Mechagodzilla that you've always wanted. Maybe not.
It's one critical flaw is
You can do it, man.
It doesn't work if it gets hit by atomic breath, but everything else is great. There you go. I'm sorry, describe it. Okay, I'm done.
Get this man a sketchbook stat.
Actually, if anybody has any one pencil and paper, I will seriously draw that right now.
Anybody?
If anybody has any paper, bring it up. Bring it up. Go look at those stupid cars.
They don't look that dissimilar from Mechagodzilla if you squint turn your head sideways.
It definitely looked like something that
would have been sci-fi 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
While you're doing that, you brought up Henshin heroes earlier, and that's something that this film clearly does have. There's a lot of influences because by the 1970s, a lot of your typical studio system stuff had already collapsed.
No, I don't want to buy one.
As an example, the 5-studio system, which was an agreement between Daiei, Toho, Toei, Shochiku, and Nikatsu, was ended in 1971. That was the exclusivity deals of their actors, which is why after that you started seeing a lot of your traditional Toho actors leave and go do other things. Now in Mechagodzilla we do have a Sahara cameo.
We do.
And we have Akito Hirata, who is a prominent side character in the film.
He's the scientist.
Yeah, that's right. I am always surprised at how often he pops up and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
He's everywhere. I never get tired of seeing him.
But
He's great.
in the film, we do see a lot of Henshin hero influences with how the simians are designed. Last night at the
Spectre Man, anyone?
Yeah. At the Pickwick last night, I was sitting next to him, and if you look at the belts for the aliens, it's actually the head of a gorilla, kind of like you would see on a Henshin hero at the time.
This is true,
Oh my
man.
god, it is. I'm realizing so many things about
I watched you sort through the files in your head there for a second, trying to like, oh wait, no, that's totally right. It was, and I never noticed that either. And you pointed that out. It was amazing.
And then another thing, and this is something that I've kind of stumbled upon as I've looked into actors at the time. A popular TV show at the time was G-Man 75, that was in the 75, but investigator shows.
Yes.
Government, like investigators.
Police shows, government conspiracy, well, not conspiracy, but like investigation, like, you know, FBI files over here, like NYPD Blue or something like that, you know? And
that was something really popular. And towards the end, in 1974 and 75, we do see government secret agents becoming a popular thing in the Godzilla films as well to keep up with the times. You know, you have the henshin hero influence from Toei, the investigator influence from other shows, on top of your kaiju tokusatsu stuff, I believe, like Ultraman and whatnot, which had came back by this point.
And of course, you know, there's a lot of now at this point, a lot of the characters, the man in suit characters, are also being played by people who've got their their feet wet playing heroes and playing television characters, television monsters.
There are a couple of people. Actually, our lead, and the name of the actor's escaping me, but he plays one of the leads. He was the Zone Fighter. He played the lead. He was Zone Fighter. He's the brother of the main character in this. And there are a lot of interesting connections. Obviously, this was the mid to late 70s was when the super robot stuff really took off. This film leans into that. It also leans, oddly enough, into a lot of Johnny Sacco-isms. A lot of Giant Robo, which I found interesting. And the other one that I always love is 4 out of the 5 70s Godzilla films have theme songs. Just like a tokusatsu show at the time would. Save the Earth, / Bring Back the Sun, from Hedera, the Godzilla March from Gigan, the Jet Jaguar song from Megalon, and this one has Nami's King Ushisa song.
I have a story about that.
Oh?
I mean,
well, later.
You're still talking.
No, you're fine. Yeah. So they had theme songs because that was kind of a thing that was becoming part of the trope, and it really goes to show we wouldn't have henshin hero shows like the Kamen Riders of the world and the Ultraman shows and Spectre Man, which the bad guys in Spectre Man are literally space gorillas, if you haven't seen that show. And it does have a pollution monster in it. One episode. There's a lot of influence there. And there were a lot of robots showing up in the Ultraman shows, like you mentioned. But we're at a point now where none of those shows would have existed without Godzilla in the 50s, starting this pop culture revolution that led to tokusatsu as a medium expanding out into hero territory and television movie territory. Live performances and all this stuff, and then that leads to henshin heroes, that leads to Ultraman and Kamen Rider, and then that stuff got so big that it eclipsed Godzilla and started influencing it back. So we've got to a point where the influenced is, it's cycling back on itself. And I find that really interesting because the 70s films really do have this aura of, like television, not in the negative way at all, but it's just leaning into what those tropes were. The alien invader of this film / alien invader of the week. Every episode of Ultra 7 had a different alien invader. Every episode, not every episode, a lot of episodes of the main bad guy in Ultraman Ace is an alien. There's an overarching villain in that series. Same with Spectre Man. Same with a lot of this stuff. And you can really, really feel that influence in these films. And this one is kind of, I would say, kind of a peak for that. In a lot of ways. It's got the bombast, the robots, the aliens, the intrigue, the traveling aspect. It's got a lot of that. And I think it all works exceptionally well. And for a lot of people like me who grew up seeing this film first and then went back and found Kamen Rider Ultraman, I was exposed to those tropes through this first. But the rest of the world at the time would have seen those things and then gone and seen Mechagodzilla and been like, oh, another one of those. So it's reversed for us.
And another interesting thing is you brought up Spectre Man, of course, Mechagodzilla, but there was also a Subaraya show at the time, Army of the Apes.
Oh yes, there was.
Oh man,
Army of the Apes.
I mean, well, obviously a lot of that was Planet of the Apes inspired.
Yes.
Oh, very much.
It all comes back to Planet of the Apes when a lot of the Japanese filmmakers saw those and said like, oh my God, we could just put a monkey mask on him. That's into the work done.
Printing cash. The Apes films, I think it was 1973 when the Apes films started airing on Japanese television, dubbed. And that created a mini, interesting, there was a little bit Apes boom in Japan at the time to mix in with everything else. And so you start getting, ape-inspired characters. It might have been earlier in the 70s. I don't remember when that was, but there was an ape boom, and Subaraya leaned into it and pretty much remade Planet of the Apes as Army of the Apes, or as people here would probably know it better, Time of the Apes, because the series was compressed into a TV movie by Sandy Frank. Sandy Frank.
He's the source of all our pain.
There it is. Google it, kids.
And kind of an ironic thing about the whole Planet of the Apes craze in Japan was the effects for that were actually done by a Japanese effects artist. They had somebody come over from Japan to America to create the effects for the film. And he was one of the he actually had worked on, if I remember correctly, King Kong Appears in Edo, the 1938 lost film. He had worked on that. He was a consultant on the original Godzilla 54, depending on what source you go by among a long list of things. But he was the one they brought over, and then he did Planet of the Apes, and then Planet of the Apes inspired a whole new wave of tokusatsu stuff in the mid-70s. So it's kind of ironic how it all kind of goes full circle in one way or another.
It really is. It was all cycling back and like building itself and collapsing back in on itself like a monolith monster, right? It was just building itself back. Thank you. It was just building itself back up, and it became such a big mix of things eventually that in a way, sadly, it kind of couldn't help but collapse, which it ultimately ended up doing, and then came back again and then went away, and then came back again and then went away. Now we're in the middle of a big boom of this stuff again. So it really goes to show the cycle, and this movie kind of represents a pinnacle of that cycle, but also you can kind of see that we're starting to slide a little bit back down. And that's not speaking to the quality of the film at all, it's just that that's how it was. I mean, it was around 1975 that the Ultraman series stopped for a hot minute and switched to anime, and then did one more live action show, and then did compilation movies, and basically went away for a long time. Kamen Rider took a break. There was a lot of that stuff. So this is about where I'd say it peaked.
Well, nowadays it's very interesting to see the cycle of media, because we've up to this point it's been a bunch of peaks and valleys, and now it feels like for a lot of franchises, because of the reach of the internet and because audiences are so fractionalized, a lot of these franchises, I don't really necessarily foresee them going away. They just shift in one direction or another. It's like, oh, well, last Star Wars movie was not very good. We'll just do TV shows for a little while. And, now they're talking about doing movies again. And it's just, so it's just an interesting to kind of see, how these things that people used to say were bellwethers of a franchise dying. Like, I mean, there were people all the time who would see Mechagodzilla and be like, what? Because the movies were definitely not selling huge numbers at the time.
They were not.
And now, we look back at it and it's like, Mechagodzilla? You have to have Mechagodzilla.
He's a cornerstone.
Yeah.
He became a cornerstone, and at the time, he was almost the result of desperation in a weird way, because they were so out of ideas. And you never think, look at this beautiful guy. You'd never think that this thing was the result of them not having any ideas, right? That's the magic of the movies. And I just love, that's a great point, Matt, about that. Just the idea that it's so different now. It's like, well, this franchise is dead, give it a week. It's fine. It's not, everybody will love it again in a week when the next new product comes out, and then people will hate it again, and then it just, ad nauseum until the death of the universe. But Mechagodzilla will always be cool, is the thing. God, there's so much to talk about with this thing that we don't have enough time to talk about.
If we're going to kind of talk about the kind of desperation at the time, I think it's important to bring up that this was made for the Toho Champion Matsuri Festival.
That's a big point. Yeah, that's an important point to mention.
Which they were completely directed towards younger audiences. They were aired with episodes of Zone Fire, Ultraman, Spectreman, any kind of hero anime. They were showing it along with anime. It was all aimed towards children, which is kind of shocking, because there are moments in this film where the aliens just start gushing out blood like Godzilla does.
Yeah, Godzilla bleeds horrifically. Our villain gets shot in the neck and spews. He spews, Elijah. It's nasty. It's not red. It's black. But Godzilla bleeds very, 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 very red. And Anguirus, poor guy. Nobody likes that scene. I know. Nobody likes that scene. He gets King Kong T-Rexed pretty bad. But at least he lives, because he has to show up and destroy all monsters, so he can't die. I am. But he doesn't have tusks. Because they had to repair the suit. Has anybody ever noticed that he doesn't have tusks in the film? Because they had to repair it.
Bring that out to me now I think about it. Yeah,
His teethers are gone, yeah. Because they had to, he was in such bad shape. Remember, that suit at this point was 6 years old. There was nothing left, and they dunked it in water for Gigan, and he looked bad, not so great there, you know. We all love him to death, but they did have to repair the heck out of that suit. Early versions of this film had Baragon, Mothra showing up. It was under a different title, so they were trying to, like, what do we have? What do we have laying around? Is Baragon in good shape? Oh, Baragon's not in good shape. Mothra? Oh, that prop's like 12 years old.
That prop's disintegrated.
There's nothing left of that, and it stinks real bad, and there's still that cigarette stuck to it.
Yeah, I remember Bob Eggleton told me a story once about when he visited the Toho, when he went to go visit, I think it was when he went to the set of Tokyo SOS, and they were looking through some of the archives, and he said that there was like some crumbly, rusty powder, like just a shell of something, and he was like, that's Mothra. It was like trash on the floor, and well, they didn't exactly have like super great like climate control storage at the time, even as recently as the early 2000s. Nowadays, it seems to be a little better, because I mean it is incredible to consider that they would just throw out those suits like props because we're not keeping this. Well, I mean, but you also consider like how Doctor Who episodes used to just tape over the old tapes. So there's some episodes that are just lost, or they find them in a bog because somebody just threw them out. And, you know,
He's not kidding.
It just goes to show you that there was kind of this attitude of, okay, we're done, we're moving on. And because so much of this stuff was made with a shoestring budget, they couldn't keep it around. There was no space to keep around, especially in Japan, where real estate's at a premium. It's amazing that I think they modified Mechagodzilla for the sequel, and that suit is still around.
You can go see that. It does show up at, it's actually just recently was on display somewhere. It's been restored, it's got some crumbly bits to it. But
Courtesy of our friends the Nishimuras, who are up at the dealer's room
yes.
at M1, and they are, I believe they are the ones who are kind of responsible for maintaining a lot of these, what's left.
Yeah. These treasures, because like you were saying, Matt, this stuff was considered industrial waste at the time. It was taking up space. And if you couldn't recycle it to build it into something else, like Tsuburaya used to do with suits, they would make new monsters out of previous costumes, then into the boneyard it goes. It goes out into the back, and there's some truly haunting pictures of rotting suits behind the Toho lot in the 80s that'll haunt your dreams. But a lot of that stuff was saved, but not nearly as much as should have been saved. I know that, doesn't Ed G have like Godzilla's fingernails somewhere? I feel like he did, like the 1968 fingers.
Possibly.
I think he does. I think he does. And
I know at his house, and I feel like that would have been something he would have been like, look.
That's true. That's true.
But,
maybe he had them and doesn't. I feel like I saw a picture of that. They had. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. We're lucky we have what we have, especially because these films are only getting older, and the generation that made them is only getting further and further away. So it's important that all of this stuff be remembered and be archived, because I mean, look, okay, it's not gonna be old man corner. I'm not yelling at clouds, but it does like, because now there's so much Godzilla media. While these show-off films are treasured, there was a time there when they were not, and now, you know, there's still some things where it's like for example, the Criterion set, there's a bunch of dubs missing, and I'm just like, where are these dubs? Like, it's I don't know, is Mechagodzilla's dub even on that set?
Yes.
That one is.
Okay, good. Okay.
The title sequences are not.
Well, then what's the point? Why am I in here? I'm gonna dub Mechagodzilla. I don't know if anybody can even see this dumb boxy thing that I made. Anyway,
That's amazing. There we go. Yeah, amazing. Oh my God. Yes.
But yeah, so I had to make sure that they had to melt down all the tires So they got to do something with him. So you know, it's like he's got grippers, and he'll grab you, and he'll rev a tire. It doesn't do any damage, but again, they had to get a tax write-off. Yeah.
For anybody over here who did not,
It can't get wet.
no moisture, none.
Moisture.
The eyes are not breakable unless you hit it like a baseball.
You got to really be aiming for it too. Oh my gosh, that's fun. Go pass that back down. Wow.
Maybe I'll put it on display at my table.
There you go.
Downstairs.
That's a conversation piece. It's like, Matt, I really love this, but what the heck is it? What is this thing? And that's when you're like, well, you see, yesterday I was talking about Mechagodzilla. That's the whole story.
Yeah, but I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to jump to.
What have we not talked about? We haven't talked about King Caesar.
I was about to say.
We haven't talked about King Caesar.
I was going to take us into King Caesar because I've been to Okinawa a couple of times. And beautiful, like highly recommended. It's kind of a Hawaii of Japan, you know, it has its own unique culture, its own unique food. And I made sure this last time, where's the beach? I want to find the beach, and I want to pray to King Caesar on the beach. And we found it. Yes. We found the beach. It's a little bit of a drive from Nara, which is the, not Nara, sorry, it's like the main big city on the island. It's a little bit of a drive, but you can drive through all these beautiful winding mountainous hills. It's just full, just greenery everywhere. And it's this little tiny beach, but you can just barely make out, like, there's kind of the cliff out there, and you can sort of see it, but there's like a new hotel there now, so it's definitely not what it used to be. But yeah, it was really cool getting to be like, you know, just getting to do the prayer and everything. And of course, people are like, why does he want to go there?
Why are you on your knees? Why are you praying? What's happening? Why are you singing?
Why are you here?
What?
Oh, it's just another white guy. Lousy with him on the silent.
Freaking tourist.
Yeah, just let him do what he's gonna do.
Just don't get just back.
Don't look him directly in the eyes. He'll start talking about anime or something. And but that was, and I think, and it really is true. Like King Caesar, like truly is an Okinawan monster because the shisas, the statues are everywhere. Like they're like chickens in Hawaii. They're all over the place. Like and they're really proud of them too. Like
yeah. I'd love to go one day. I've been to Japan. I've never been like, proper, but I've never been to like Okinawa proper, right? I'd love to go, and that's a huge part of why this film even exists is because of Okinawa. I mean, the Okinawa angle, like there's some scenes in this movie that feel like a tourist video, like please come to Okinawa. And the reason for that is because Okinawa officially rejoined Japan around that time. They were annexed in the 1800s, 1879, I believe. And there's a very long, complicated, a whole other panel's worth of history about tensions between mainland Japan and Okinawa. It was a very strained relationship. They did not want to be annexed. They were basically christened the Fifth Island, and they weren't not into that. They had the Ryukyu people. It's a unique people on the island. And their culture was slowly being like, well, we don't care about that. Where you have to be like the mainland, and clearly Okinawa was like, actually no. So that created some tension. And in the mid-70s, Okinawa, like basically, they were given back a lot of that stuff. And in order to celebrate that, there was this very big focus, this pop culture focus at the time on spotlighting Okinawan culture in mainland Japan, giving it some attention, filming there, like doing filmmaking opportunities, stuff with the economy, and in kind of the same way Expo 70 was like this. That's why Gamera vs. Jiger is the way it is. This is why Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is the way it is. Right from the beginning, they were like, we're going to do a Godzilla movie in Okinawa. We're going to celebrate Okinawan culture. We're going to be like, hi guys, it's cool, right? Like we can make a movie here, right? And just to kind of welcome them back in. And so that's one of the reasons that this movie exists, and that's why the other monster is literally the mythological poster child, essentially, for Okinawa. That's why he was a Shisai, and it's pretty cool.
There's it's just to kind of piggyback on what you were talking about. it's interesting how it does feel like in a lot of ways the celebration of Okinawa. I didn't get that when I was originally watching it. Well, first of all, I didn't really understand much of the history. But secondly, there's a lot of anger in this movie because the grandpa, the retainer of the Azumi family or whatever, he's just like, oh, the prophecy is going to come true, and Godzilla is going to destroy mainland Japan as revenge. And I'm like, whoa. It's
Old dude, what are you talking about?
There's it's like this, in a way, it's like this, like, it has this underlying rage boiling just under the surface of like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess we're part of Japan, but also... Like,
also screw you for what you did to us. Like, we didn't forget that. And I love that they acknowledge that, because they could have just made it this very pretty, haha, we're friends now, there's no tension left, please come visit Okinawa. But they let one of the Okinawan characters be actively, vocally upset on camera about what had happened. So they didn't shy away from it. They acknowledged the... Godzilla! Take revenge against the mainland! Like, yeah, that guy. Like, if you ever...
Definitely somebody in their 20s doing an old man.
Like me, yeah, like that's literally... Yeah, I'm an old guy. Do you believe me? I think I fooled them. I never suspected a thing. This is my Matlock marathon.
Eisenhower!
I haven't seen monster attack like this since the first Roosevelt administration. Oh God, yeah. Clearly I'm an old guy. Did I fool you? Ha, it was me the whole time. But yeah, there you go. King Caesar. He's cool.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how they've that as there have been other Caesar kaiju, Shisa kaiju, like in Ultraman, they literally did like their own version of King Caesar. In what was the Ultraman G movie? They did a whole, again, another Okinawan tourist destination, which is nice. Like being in Okinawa these days, it's clear that their culture as something unique. They're trying to celebrate it and highlight it more. Like, no, this is our culture. Like I went to a restaurant where they had a live performance, and it was this person singing these fun Okinawan tunes. They were dressed in this traditional, traditional garb and everything, which is a little different. In fact, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the way the Okinawan characters were dressed in the movie, because they had like this very unique headdress and like just little touches. I was like, that's just a little bit different, and that's interesting. She made a song about me. Let's go over there. She said, we're gonna make a song about this guy, and I was like, what's happening? And she said, Oji-san, which means like old weird uncle. Weird guy is what she said, and I'm like, thank you.
Taking that as a compliment?
Take a compliment if you like it or not. It was very fun. It was very cool. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else we wanted to cover, because it looks like we're getting close.
Looks like we're about on time. So I think unless we could maybe take one question.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything they want to say?
Anybody? Statements, comments, concerns?
You were the first one I saw.
I wanted to kind of get that just what you guys were talking about earlier. The original Mechagodzilla was kind of the Mechagodzilla, honestly, I think that is maybe one of the best parts of Mechagodzilla as a character. That I feel like no matter what they do with it, it always feels like a reflection of what the Mechagodzilla is like at the time. Super Mechagodzilla is a little bit more grounded and kind of maybe like the concept art they do for like Star Wars.
It has a 90s Gundam vibe, the 90s Mechagodzilla.
Yeah,
it's true.
Especially nowadays with the monsters
Yeah.
Very angular, sharp, industrial feeling.
That's one aspect of Godzilla that I like. It looks like he's kind of been cobbled together. Like, we gotta make deadline.
Good budget.